Okay. Hi. Hello. My name is Shane Brodie. I'm traveling around the country talking to trans, non-binary, and gender non-conforming people. Yeah. And right now we're in this really interesting part of the country, up in the mountains. It's fall, and the leaves have changed. And yesterday it was very sunny, and it was just absolutely glorious, I must say.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so this project is I'm talking to people about their identity, their beliefs, religious, political, what's going on in their state, their locality, what's going on in the country, etc. So here's my guest. Oops, sorry, bub. For today, and he's going to introduce himself in whatever way he feels comfortable. So,
Hi, my name's Chris. Just a Pennsylvania guy.
Okay. So, tell me about this area that you're living in.
It's really in the middle of nowhere. I moved here about a month ago from a different part of the Poconos. It's just rural. Like, that's probably the best way I can describe it. A lot of summer homes.
Yeah. Yeah, I've heard the name the Poconos before, like from movies and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Huge vacation spot.
Yeah.
I know that I would say 50% of the homes in here are probably like summer homes. But I like the quiet, and that's why I moved here.
Yeah. Is it like a lot of New Yorkers that are here?
Yeah, tri-state area, New Jersey, especially New York.
Okay. When you say tri-state, is that Pennsylvania, New York, and New Jersey?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. I'm from the West Coast, so I don't know these things.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Most recently, I was living in Alaska. So, yeah, I know about the remote thing. Actually, it's interesting to me because, well, I camped last night, which was really great for me. I had a campfire. My dog was out there running around in the forest a little bit. The weather here is so nice that it's not hot. I've been suffering through this heat over the summer, going through the South and through Texas and stuff. And now I'm just like, oh, it's so nice and quiet and cool. So I see why you love it.
Yeah.
And this place, it reminds me of my cabin, actually, but it's about 6 times as large. What is this, like an A-frame? What is this?
I think it's considered like a chalet style.
Chalet. Okay.
Yeah, it's
like Germanic.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's like it has 3 bedrooms technically. Plus,
really?
Yeah, plus the loft.
Maybe it's bigger than I think it is.
Yeah, in that back room, there's the living room that leads up to like the master bedroom.
Okay.
So it's like totally private.
My place had a loft too. That's why my dog went up the stairs. Because I only had a ladder though. So he couldn't get up on it, but he used to like stretch his paws up on the ladder, like, "Ooh, I want to get up there," but he couldn't because it's the ladder. Yeah, cutie. Yeah, so this place probably feels a little familiar to him. Yeah,
That makes sense.
yeah. So we postponed this interview yesterday because you were getting roofing done.
Yes.
That must be a little scary for you.
A little disconcerting.
Yes.
I knew a new roof needed to be put on in this house before I moved in.
Right, and it's winter is coming soon.
Yeah, so I has to get done immediately. But I didn't realize the magnitude of what it was going to be.
Right. I'm imagining that rot settles in really easily up here.
Yes. A lot of high moisture. It
Yes.
rains a lot. It snows a lot.
Yeah.
So
That's why I was so excited to have a campfire, because you can't really do this in the West.
oh god.
You can't have a lot of open fires when you go camping.
Okay, gotcha.
But here it's so wet, it's like whatever.
yeah. I've read somewhere that it actually rains here more than Seattle, depending on
yeah.
the season, which
Yeah.
I totally believe.
Well, Seattle just kind of sprinkles. It doesn't really rain.
Right.
Yeah, and they so rarely get snow or ice or anything like that. So yeah, when they
Interesting.
get ice, everything shuts down.
Oh, God.
Yeah, they're real babies about it. They're total babies about it. Do you get a lot of snow up here in the winter?
A ton of snow.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially even I'm not sure what the elevation is in this exact
Yeah.
spot. I work in Stroudsburg, and it'll be a foot of snow up here and no snow down there.
Okay.
And that's only a 45-minute drive.
Sure. Yeah, so there can be variations. Also valleys, you know, I mean, it's, yeah. Yeah, so it must be really nice in here in the winter, like quiet.
Yes.
I'm imagining.
Like the stillness after a fresh snowfall is unmatched.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. When I was out in my cabin and, you know, there'd be some sort of snowfall, I panicked a little bit because how am I going to get down my driveway, which was really long. But then I would go outside and just, like, look up at the sky and just feel all the quiet around me, you know? Oh, so great. Do you ever see, I know this is a little bit strange, but do you ever see the Aurora here? I know it sometimes
No.
dips down into the lower 48.
I wish.
Okay.
I drove to like Colorado during like March, which I thought I might have been able to see it there, but
Yeah.
didn't see it. The only thing I've seen here are some constellations, a shooting star here and there.
Yeah.
But not too much other than that.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, up in Alaska, of course, we can see the Aurora. But, you know, for anybody who is interested, and if you do live in the lower 48, you can look at the Aurora forecast through the University of Alaska. And sometimes that's what it's called, the Aurora forecast. And you can see it dip down into the lower 48 sometimes.
Oh, cool.
So, you know, if you keep watch on that, you can actually sometimes see it down here. Yeah.
Good to know.
Yeah. Maybe not Pennsylvania, maybe more like the Midwest, the northern Midwest, like Michigan and
Right.
Minnesota and stuff. But who knows? Maybe down here too. Who knows? Who knows? Yeah, so it's wet, it's damp, yeah, those mean the same thing. So lots of wetness out here. And then you don't have a roof.
Yeah, exactly. I have like a halfway roof right now.
You have a big tarp up there.
Yeah.
That's so Alaskan. For a long time I had you know how you have your little avatar names or whatever? Mine was blue plastic tarp for a long time. People thought like, why are you putting a blue plastic tarp? Well, just because it's ubiquitous. Anyway, so so tell me more about your cabin here. I love it.
I was renting an apartment for the last 10 years.
And was that in the urban place? Or?
As urban as it can get in the Poconos. I would say maybe more suburb.
Okay.
But
Did you grow up here, by the way?
No, I'm actually
Okay.
from Long Island, New York.
Oh, and you say it long.
Yeah.
Long.
Can't drop that accent hard as I try.
Well, you know, before doing this project, I didn't realize how I spoke, and I find that I don't enunciate. And it's embarrassing. So I appreciate you put the G on there, actually.
It's a hard G.
So Long Island.
Yes. I moved to Erie, Pennsylvania first in 2008. Pretty much right after I graduated high school. I was
It's a
out.
very industrial place, isn't it?
Yes. I
Is
actually
it still industrial, by the way?
I would say it was when I lived there.
Okay.
I quite enjoyed it,
Okay.
but things just like kind of didn't work out. But I traveled along pretty much like the south central Altoona, Pennsylvania.
Okay.
I lived there for a little bit, and I settled in here maybe around 8 years ago.
What actually brought you here, though?
To get as far away from my family as I could.
All right. Yeah, I hear that.
One of those things.
I hear that. When I was younger, I was in Texas, and my family was there, and you know, I hadn't lived with them for quite a while, but at some point, I was like, "Oh, I gotta get out of Texas," and so I had like $100 or something like that, and no, I think it was even less than that because I ended up only having $4 when I ended up in the place where I was. I was either like Maine or Seattle. So I know.
Yeah.
Because I was like, I need to get as far away as possible on a Greyhound. So I went to Seattle. So
Nice.
yeah.
That was like pretty much my same thing. I was working in a Michael's craft store. I took my last paycheck and grabbed a Greyhound bus. Yeah. And that was it.
Old gray dog there. Yeah. Wretched.
yeah, for real.
Yeah. So I'm curious, what is your identity as a trans person?
That's a good question. I'm sorry, I'm trying to think about that for a minute.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was raised in an ultra-religious household.
What kind?
A Roman Catholic.
So very conservative Catholic.
Very conservative. We did not talk about anything. Like, it was, if I couldn't talk to my priest about it, then it was not something I could talk about.
Wow.
Yeah, so did Catholic school
Did you do confession every week? Yes. I don't know how this thing works. I don't know how it works.
Yeah, so we were not even just church on Sunday people. We were church several days a week type of people.
So what does that look like in a week?
Just going to church after dinner for mass, confessing on an almost weekly basis.
Okay.
I went to Catholic school as well.
Is that like an after-school kind of thing?
It was, instead of like a public high school, I went to a religious-censored high school.
I see. Okay.
And
so a private religious institution. Okay.
Exactly. And I was so wrapped up in it that I didn't think that I would see anything aside from religion. I was preparing to be a nun at some point.
Oh, wow.
Right. Like I was.
So it was a positive experience for you?
Not exactly.
Okay.
It was just something I felt like I had no choice. Like this was going to be my calling because I didn't know that there were other things out there.
But calling, that's kind of a deep thing. I mean, that's very deep. Like,
yeah.
How was it? Was there any part of that was positive, or because I mean, calling, that's like a deep yearning, you know?
The only positive I had from it was I had a religious teacher who I had a great relationship with, who was a nun. And she was really happy with what she did. Oh. And I thought, she's happy. This has got to be something good. Okay. So that's why I felt like I wanted to do it. Okay.
So you had a good mentor or example. Were you kind of isolated?
Yes.
Okay. That can limit your choices. Yeah, I can see that.
I really was like an awkward kid, so I didn't have a lot of friends outside of school. I had friends in school that I was close with, but that was it. And I was, if anything, I was more friends with the nuns than I was with people my age.
So adults, yeah. Were you like gifted, smart, above average?
I was only really good at art.
Okay.
I learned how to read at an early age, so I was always stuck.
So I would say you were probably gifted. Yeah.
Always stuck in a book.
Yeah, if you're reading at an early age and stuff. So that can be some kids who are like that, and I will say I was like that. I also had a very isolating and religious upbringing as well. So that's why I'm kind of connecting with you on that.
Right.
Is that you will connect with other adults, right? Because you get more stimulation that is more intellectual and, affirming in some ways, you know. Yeah. Kind of a parent substitute a little bit.
Yeah, I felt like more like I was a kid just waiting to be an adult.
Yes.
That's all I can say about that.
And with adulthood, you get freedom and more choices. Yeah.
Yeah, choices I didn't even know I had until I had them.
Like what?
Like being able to leave.
Yeah.
Like I thought that was...
Did you have a queer identity as well?
I was very closeted. And I was always a very masculine child.
Yeah.
And I was raised to be, put together, well-dressed. You have to be pretty. You have to be quiet.
Were you like a good girl?
No, I was the exact opposite.
I was a good girl. I was always trying to do what people wanted me to do. And I'm like the total opposite now, but
I fought it every step of the way.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
I didn't realize
So you did have some agency there.
Yes.
See, there you go. What did you do with it?
That's when I decided to leave. Was when I realized, oh, I don't need to do this.
How old were you?
18.
Okay.
So like as soon as I could finally leave, I would. I was surprised my parents didn't fight it at all. I thought they were going to be a lot more resistant towards it, but they weren't. I guess they kind of just let me go after that.
But what led up to that?
I had really struggled towards the end of my high school career, especially my junior and senior year. I was almost flunking out. I was struggling with mental health. I had done like a rehab thing. And at that point, I felt like I don't think I could have been controlled by my parents anymore. The fear that they had instilled in me as a child was gone.
Did you get any threats of like being put into some kind of institution? Or
I had been hospitalized a handful of times, but it was nothing like nothing more than like a month at a time. So I wasn't afraid of it.
Okay, so it was kind of like old hat. You can't get me with that anymore.
Yeah.
Okay. Because some people have the experience where they are put somewhere for a really long time, like they're institutionalized. How old are you? What age around are you?
I'm 32.
Okay, so you're 32. Sorry, I shouldn't be so blunt. Some people don't want to answer that question.
Understandable.
Because it used to be, well, where I lived in Texas, they had commercials on TV. So strange about, is Johnny off by himself more? Is he not talking to you as much? Send him to Bellevue Hospital or whatever.
Jeez.
I know, like normal teenage behaviors. But this was the 80s. So you grew up in kind of a different era.
Yes.
And I think maybe people are less ready to institutionalize their children. Hopefully. But yeah, that was happening a lot in the 80s. Especially if you had any like queer identity. So let's talk about, So we were talking a little bit about a trans identity. Let's get back to that for a second.
I didn't fully come into my trans identity until I was in my 20s. I identified as a butch lesbian.
Yeah. And that can be fun, right?
Yeah, it felt like totally normal. And
I had fun as a butch lesbian.
Yeah. It was great being yelled at in the bathroom all the time, and it was just a terrible time.
Was it really terrible?
Not terrible.
Okay.
There were definitely terrible
You're
moments.
Exaggerating.
Yeah, terrible moments, but not an overall terrible time.
Sure.
I do feel like
I got served a lot.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. Or once I realized, that I was a woman, the dramatic overcorrection. Oh, yes. Like, oh God, I'm so sorry.
I'm so sorry.
Yes, like it was a bit much, but it was what it was.
Okay, so you were a butch lesbian. What didn't I guess continue? Why didn't you continue with that? What else was going on?
When I realized that I could transition, it was not something I thought was possible. I thought it was completely normal to feel the way I did, where I felt like I always was a little boy growing up that just happened to have to wear dresses.
Sure.
And I just thought it was normal.
Okay.
Then I met a therapist that I had recently had started going to for like some previous issues, and I started talking about my gender issues that I was having, and she had not recommended transitioning, but she kind of opened the idea up to me that it was something that could be possible.
And this was what, like 10 years ago or something like that?
A give or take. It was like 2011-ish.
Okay. Yeah. All right. That's cool that you were able to find a therapist too. Was that in an urban place, or was that more like suburban?
That was like in Erie. So
Erie, okay.
Urban-ish.
Urban, yeah. Tell me a little bit about Erie. I don't know too much about it. I know it has a heavy industrial past. I mean, obviously, there's songs about it, right?
Right.
What's going on now, though?
So I lived in a small town outside of Erie called East Springfield, but it was like a stone's throw from Erie.
Yeah.
So if I ever wanted to do anything fun, I could just drive over.
Yeah, there's several towns there, like Buffalo's not too far.
Yeah.
And then, but when you get outside of that, there's kind of nothing for a while.
Vast nothingness.
Yes.
And if you drive too far west, you'll accidentally end up in Ohio.
Right.
It just
right.
kind of happens.
Right. Or Snowmobile Land, New York, or something.
Yeah.
Chautauqua. Anyway.
But I quite enjoyed it. Because I was originally from New York, the only city I had experienced was New York City.
That's right.
So
the city.
Yeah. So I was and I enjoy New York City, but it's a vast, dense place, and Erie wasn't like that. And so it opened my eyes to something that wasn't so suffocating and urban.
Right.
And that's what I liked about it.
Yeah. And different milieu, different people. So was there a active queer community there?
The people, not really, but the people I had met, because I really didn't meet anyone until I got there. They were queer.
Did you just kind of go, there?
Yeah,
okay,
exactly.
great.
I just kind of had, at the time, I didn't even have a cell phone. I had just a laptop.
That takes a lot of confidence to do that. Are you, how did you think that you could actually do that? I'm just going to go to that place.
Not by good choices. I can be impulsive. It's probably, I consider it a strong point, but also a very weak point. And my general thought process is it'll eventually work out one way or another.
Sure. That's very positive. Yeah. And if it doesn't, you can move on, right?
Yeah. And that's what I had thought. I was like, I can just jump on another bus and that'll be it.
Right. And when you're a young person, you're so free to do that,
Yes.
And get a job and whatever. All right. So there wasn't much of a queer community there, you're saying?
No.
But you were in a queer community.
Yeah, the people I knew were queer, and it was a handful of people, and there probably was a larger queer community I just wasn't made aware of.
Yeah. Was it a very tight community?
I mean, they're still people I talk to today.
Yes. I find those communities really great, though. Even though they're small, they could be tighter and less contentious, maybe, than bigger ones. Bigger communities tend to faction off because people are like, yeah, I don't need you.
Right. A little cliquey.
Yeah. But when you just have, a dozen people, well, you got to get along,
Yeah, it was cool. We were all living in the same house together at one point.
Great.
That's when I was just
well, you landed in a great spot then.
Yeah. It worked. Ended up
Were you just out on the corner hi, I'm queer, take me home with you?
Weirdly enough, I answered a Craigslist ad for looking for a roommate, and I was
great.
I mean, looking back now, cannot believe I'm not dead. But, it's one of those things.
Oh, I understand. Yeah, I totally understand. There's several points where I'm like, wow, how did I get past that? I don't know.
Right.
Anyway, so how long were you in Erie?
Not that long.
You sought out therapy there at some point?
Yes.
Okay.
Because I do have a mental health diagnosis that I do need treatment for.
Yeah. Well, that's great. You're taking responsibility for that.
It's gotten me in trouble in the past.
What has?
My undiagnosed symptoms, pretty much.
Oh, I see.
But I stayed in Erie until roughly 2013. And that's when I had started my butchery career. I had started an apprenticeship in Erie.
Oh, you're a butcher. Oh, yeah. That's great.
So started in Erie.
Butcher baker. Where's the candlestick maker? Sorry.
I do love that joke.
I'm also a candy maker and a cheese maker. Anyway.
But I had gotten another job opportunity in Altoona, which was South Central. And that was even though now that's also middle of nowhere, kind of depending on where you land. Is
that like a mill town? What is that? Do you know?
That I'm not sure.
Okay.
To be honest.
I love to hear about the history of all these little towns out here.
Oh, so you're not familiar with it because I didn't stay there too long.
Okay.
I kind of just worked there for a little bit, and then I got another job opportunity out here, and I've been here ever since.
Okay. So that was an apprenticeship.
Yes.
How long did you go through that where you felt like you were a skilled butcher?
The way the program works, or at least where I had started, was you go through the apprenticeship for 2 years, and then you're automatically a journeyman.
Oh, 2 years.
Yeah.
That is really short.
Right.
That's wonderful.
It seems that way. But it quickly was, I kind of picked it up quickly.
Yeah.
Which is what I was really happy about, because I primarily only worked with men. And it was just affirming in that way. Like, I really felt like one of the guys.
Yeah.
And I could do anything that they could, or better.
Is it very physical? Like you have to lift stuff?
Yes, very, very physical. I mean, like a side of beef is like, lots of weight.
Right. Yeah. Are there any, speaking of that, what's the wildlife around here? Like, because I noticed that there were hunting lands around here and clubs, and just looking at the map, like it's very blatant about that.
Yeah, so hunting's huge.
Yeah.
Right now, I think, so it's deer. That's mainly what they hunt for. I don't hunt myself. I process deer, but I don't do the hunting. But I believe it's broken down into weapon type, and right now it's like crossbow and bow season.
Yeah, I saw a guy at the park where I was camping who said it was too warm last night, and so he didn't have good luck with his. He and his daughter went out, and then somebody else said, "Yeah, I just saw some folks over on the hunting area, and they were in blaze orange, and they had crossbows or something." Yeah.
Or quail, wild turkey. I think that's like the biggest game. Like, there's no like moose or anything like that here.
Okay. Yeah.
I think, and coyote season, I believe, is year round.
Oh, are they considered vermin or something?
I think they're considered like destructive.
Okay.
Like, living in this community, I've gotten mail talking about the threats of coyotes and leaving your dogs outside and all that good stuff.
Yeah. Oh, Cooper.
That's very cute.
He's playing with his dog's toys. He also ate some of their food, I think.
Doing dog stuff.
Yeah, doing dog stuff. I hope he didn't do the other dog stuff in here, but boy dogs like to mark. Let's see. So Altoona, and then after Altoona, what was going on?
So I originally, when I moved to the Poconos, I moved to Mount Pocono.
And is that an actual resort area? Or
that's where you're kind of getting the beginning of huge resort area, because there's all the water parks. And,
water parks up in the
yes.
mountains?
Right, very strange. Kalahari apparently is the world's largest indoor water park.
Okay.
At least that's what the radio.
Indoor water park, too.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
I've never been there myself, so I can't attest to it. But
water parks are really big up here. Like, I was driving up to Maine, which, all the New Yorkers and folks, they go up there to party or whatever, relax, be butch. Anyway, there was a ton of water parks that I went across. I was like, what is going on here?
I guess they love just playing in the water.
I don't know.
Because even when in Long Island, there's tons of water parks out there too.
Oh my goodness, it's a thing. It's a thing out here.
It definitely is.
So, but the one up here is indoors, which makes sense.
Yeah.
Which makes sense because it's cooler over here. So what else? Is there like skiing or?
Yes. I went skiing for the first time last winter.
Okay.
But there's Camelback Mountain. I think there's also one called Montage Mountain.
Is it downhill or Nordic?
I think it's all downhill.
Okay.
I'm not too familiar. I was on like just the bunny slopes most of the time.
Yeah. So that's downhill. Yeah. I can't really do downhill. I my balance isn't as good. One of my legs is weaker than the other, so it's just it's not that great. But I can do Nordic. I still fall down a lot, but at least I'm not going very fast. I'm going very slowly. It's like really super vigorous, but slinky walking.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, I like Nordic. Did you ever do that? It's very strenuous.
I haven't, but I've gone snowshoeing.
Oh, snowshoeing, yeah.
So I kind of similar-ish.
With the big ones or the sport ones?
The one with the sport ones.
Yeah, those are good.
I don't know.
You can climb with those.
Yes.
Yeah,
I don't know
yeah.
if you passed by it, but there's I think it's the Pinchot National Forest.
Yeah, that's where I was camping.
Oh, okay. That's
it's
where.
It's like literally like a walk away from
Yes,
there.
that's probably my favorite trail to
Yeah.
visit, like no matter what time of the year, and great for snowshoeing.
Yeah, there was a lot of people that came and visited. A lot of older people, some people with kids. And then the reason why I look a little haggard today, if you notice that, is I was doing a little bit of beer drinking for one thing, but by the campfire and stuff, having fun. But I was also woken up so many times. I'm not sure what was going on, but it was like every couple of hours somebody would park next, like kind of near me.
Oh God.
And when it's so quiet out and it's so dark, and then suddenly a big truck comes by.
Yeah.
Who knows? I don't know. I don't know what y'all are doing, but there's something going on here in the mountains. Anyway, it was busier than I thought it would be.
Yeah, that's a Saturday night for you.
Oh, that's true. It was a Saturday night.
Yeah.
I guess it's a, rural Saturday night.
Yeah.
Let's go to the parking lot of the park.
Yeah. Accurate.
Okay. Anyway, so you're moving. You moved away from New York. You went to Erie. You went to Altoona. You became a butcher. You were identified as a butch woman for a while, and that was fun. And then you discovered that you could transition, or that you could take on a trans identity, and that was a thing. And you were in therapy around that. Where have you landed, I guess, with that? Where are you where are you at with that right now?
I only started medically transitioning like 2 years ago.
Okay.
Just because I was unsure of if that's exactly what I wanted. I didn't want to take the plunge and hate myself more. And that was what I was afraid of. I had been
hate yourself more, like you were mixing like mental health issues with transness, or
because I didn't realize I was experiencing dysphoria until I knew what dysphoria was. I had been binding for years.
Okay.
And I just thought it was like a normal thing that everyone did, you know?
Sure.
And when
it's amazing when you're kind of isolated, that the things that you think are normal. Yeah.
So I was doing like the double sports bra and like literally anything to like hide it.
Sure. Did you do that every day?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm grateful that I haven't had like any long-term effects from it, because I know that especially in the beginning I was not safely binding. It was kind of doing anything.
And what do you mean by that? Because I don't know.
I was using like ace bandages, things that I couldn't breathe in safely.
Okay.
I definitely experienced
even with a very physical job, you were doing that.
Yeah.
Wow.
And it was because I think I was working with men, and I was like, I cannot have my chest exposed. I have to blend in. That's how I felt.
Okay. And were you doing anything else, like taking on a different name, trying to pass?
I always dressed masculinely. Pretty much as soon as I left my parents' house, that was it. Because I wasn't allowed to express myself fully.
Okay.
Especially in high school, I had to wear a uniform.
Right.
And that was skirt
gracious.
Skirt and a blazer year round.
Wow.
Yeah, and once I got into high school,
It's like church every day.
yeah, you had to wear like part of the uniform was actually pumps.
Oh.
Yeah, like there was.
What kind of religious stuff is that about?
It was super bizarre because like it kind of
show off your calves.
Like and the transition from like middle school to high school was very strange because like I felt like I became a woman overnight, but I never felt it. It was just expected of me.
Did you kind of feel like you weren't gendered before that, and then suddenly you had to be very gendered?
Yes.
Okay.
And
that was my experience as well.
I think especially once I hit puberty and my breast became noticeable, and I was like, oh, like I'm a woman now, I guess, and I'm getting the wrong attention, and
Ooh.
yeah, just
Ooh.
bad time.
Oh, I hate that.
Yeah.
The wrong attention. Ugh. Yeah, I understand. I was lucky. I hit puberty really late in my teenager years, but yeah, when it happened, it was like, no.
Yeah, just
No.
dreading it.
Yeah.
But I've been going by Chris my entire life,
Oh,
pretty
okay.
much. It's a shortened version of my dead name.
Yeah. And that's a very gender neutral name.
Yeah.
It's great.
And it fit me perfectly. And as far as even like legally changing my name, I just changed it to Chris.
Yeah.
I felt like nothing else could suit me.
Yeah.
Other than that.
Yeah, it's your name.
Yeah.
That's great. Yeah, I talked to a trans woman who was Robert, and then when she had some surgery, we talked about this in our interview. A lot of the aides in her recovery were Spanish-speaking people, and they called her Roberta after her procedure. So she was like, "I'm Roberta now."
I love that.
Yeah, it's awesome. Yeah, some of us have very feminine names though, so it's like,
Yeah, I can't get
what do you
away
do with
it.
that if you're named after a flower? You know.
Right.
Although I must say, I did like my old name, but yeah, it just doesn't suit me now.
Yeah.
It would be odd to be called that now.
Right.
Yeah, that's great though that you have this continuity with your own name.
Yeah, and it was still not good for my family, just because.
What?
Yeah, right. Just because like I was always, that other person to them and all that.
That other person, like
Yeah.
what?
I think they perceived me strictly on visual. Like, I was always just Tina.
Okay.
That was it. Like that, and it's just not. It's not me.
Has that changed, or have you had much contact with them since starting medical transition?
Believe it or not,
Because obviously you've changed.
Oh, yeah.
You don't look like a Tina.
right. I think what was most startling for my dad was realizing how much I look like him now.
Oh.
And it's like looking in
Wow.
a mirror. Yeah, it's a
Wow. So strong genes there.
yes. Even my brother I have a niece, and she's maybe around 1 or 2 years old now. And when I have seen her in person, she thinks I'm my brother.
Oh.
And it's kind of cute.
That's cute.
Yeah.
That's cute. Oh, that's sweet.
Yeah. But so my grandmother has been my biggest support. I'm very
Maternal or paternal?
maternal.
Maternal.
I was fortunate to grow up with her as like a second mother. She lived in the household with my parents and my siblings.
Great.
Yeah, so
Was she kind of like a refuge for you?
yes.
Okay.
She was always a safe person. Even though she doesn't fully understand it.
Yeah.
She has always been on top of it. Like when I came out to her first.
Right, because she loves you and she wants to be part of your life.
And she didn't even question it. She was
Yeah.
like, okay.
Right.
And then asked me what I was doing.
Yeah.
that was it.
That is such a loving response. And even if she doesn't quite understand it, I mean, that's so amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, that's an extra leap. Like people who know about it and are cool about it, that's one thing. But if you don't really know about it and you're still cool about it, that's even better. Wow, that's great.
She still lives in New York with my parents, like in the same house.
Yeah.
I try to go out like once or twice a month, but I call her every week.
Is that a common thing in that area, like extended families living together?
I'm not totally sure. My mother is Uruguayan,
Okay.
so they both came to this country like at the same time.
Okay.
So I think that's why they never really parted.
Yeah.
It's not something they really talk about though, what happened before moving here. So I can only imagine it's probably traumatic.
Oh, okay, like refugee status
Yeah.
or something. Okay,
Yeah.
yeah, that's understandable. Also, that's wonderful living with extended family. I mean, obviously it was good for you too.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I don't looking back at it now, but I slept in the same bed with her until like I was like 13.
Oh,
and
wow.
like we just hung out. Like it wasn't anything weird to me. It was just something that I felt comfortable doing.
Yeah, I think it's only weird to waspy people. you know?
Yeah.
Really, I mean, everybody else in the world does that, you know?
Right.
It's only wasps that are like, no, you have to separate out, you know?
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, it's so strange.
When I speak to my grandmother, I'll speak to her in Spanish just to try to practice
Yes.
my Spanish.
Yeah.
What my dad is Italian, so it's like I don't look anything like my mom. It's so cute.
He's trying to, my dog's trying to give him his dog's ball. Anyway.
But yeah, like my dad's Italian, so I don't look anything like my mom. The only thing I got from her was like the height.
I can definitely see the Italian there. Like you got the strong eyebrows.
Yeah, and the eyebrows, like that was. I'm glad they grew back. I spent years tweezing them to nothingness.
Oh yes.
Like,
You know, my mom did that because at the time when she was young, like the thin bows.
arch,
Yeah,
yes.
those were very popular, and they were so thin they didn't grow back. So she spent a long time, you know, just using her Lancome pencils or whatever, you know. Yeah, mine used to be before transitioning. They were so white, like a white blonde, and they just kind of ended in the middle, and you just couldn't see them. Yeah. But now, since transitioning and obviously being on testosterone for a long time, now I have old man brows. Do you see this action? Like I can almost comb them.
yeah, they're getting some length.
They're like gnarly. Yeah, it's funny. Yeah, you're probably going to be interesting too when you get older.
Oh yeah, I feel I have to tweeze here because my eyebrows will grow pretty much all the way around.
So
if I
you're
let
like
them.
Wolfman.
Oh yeah, I knew it was going to happen. But I was like, that was actually one of the changes I was excited for.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you're excited to get hair down like underneath your eyeballs.
Pretty much.
How about nose hair, like on the top of the nose?
God, I hope that I'm not too excited for.
I once saw a guy shave his nose in a, it was like in a gym situation. And I was like, wow, that guy's shaving his nose.
Bold.
Yeah, well, I guess you have to.
Yeah.
He was like, he had really dark hair, and I think it was probably wiry or something. I don't know. Of course, I have the ear hair. It's like they're moths. There's moths growing on my ears. Oh. Now I know why they have those funny little attachments. You know, those little things you put in their ears.
Yeah, makes total sense.
Yeah. Okay, we were laughing so much that I was actually getting like a little giddy or something, and I needed to take a break. Like the muscles in my face were getting tired. Anyway, so we talked a little bit about maybe some of the things we want to talk about, and I mentioned like sexuality, right? So how did that change? Because you used to identify as a butch lesbian. So how is that now?
The biggest adjustment for me was leaving the lesbian community that I felt so a part of.
Yeah.
And that was very hard. As far as my sexuality, like it hasn't changed. I'm still like mostly attracted to feminine presenting people.
Okay.
I would say regardless.
Were you doing like butch femme?
Yes.
Okay.
That was kind of like.
That's a certain thing, by the way. Let's
Yeah.
talk about that.
I love the butch femme. Like that is.
And in those industrial towns, that's big too.
Yeah.
Butch femme is a big thing.
Because like, I don't know. It was a game we used to play, and it'd be dyke or farmer's wife, and it's hard to tell sometimes.
That's awesome. Tell me more about that.
It's like there was wasn't like exactly a lesbian bar, but it was kind of like a queer bar. And,
No, I want to hear more about the farmer's wife and the.
But yeah, so
Okay.
you see people come in, and there would be with a man, and we would assume, okay, it's got to be the farmer's wife. I don't want to say homely, but I would say masculine woman.
Okay, yes.
And you'd be like, no way,
No,
she's
no.
straight.
Yeah.
But
In the West too, like in Wyoming, Montana, and stuff, I would sometimes see women who I'd think, oh, that must be a lesbian. Straight women.
yeah,
Absolutely.
totally
Yeah.
like just masculine,
Yeah.
which is awesome.
Just ranch woman, ranch working woman. You know, that's how it is.
But my ex-wife, like she was femme, and I loved it. Like I loved dressing up to be with her, and like seeing her dressed up. Like that was my whole thing. I loved that.
So, So do you like the contrast?
Yes.
Do you like sort of being chivalrous or being a gentleman or
Yeah.
okay.
All that. Like,
Okay.
I loved being able to like pull her chair out at a restaurant. You'd be the perfect gentleman.
Okay.
So, yeah.
That's nice. That's nice. Did you ever take like dancing lessons or anything like that?
No, I something I like wanted to do was learn how to waltz or something old school like that, but
Yeah.
I haven't had the chance.
Yeah. Well, waltz is pretty easy. I mean, when you think about like the other kinds of dances and stuff,
Yeah,
like,
just like a box step.
yeah,
almost.
yeah. I mean, I'm not saying it's boring or anything like that. I mean, it's obviously pretty cool. You know, it's not like, oh, here we're gonna do tango or something. You know? Yeah, but I mean, in a few lessons, you could probably learn that. Yeah. So tell me more about that. What was it like pulling away from the lesbian community or the dyke community? How would you say it? Dyke?
I would. So I guess I called myself a dyke.
Okay.
And some people would take offense to that. They
Yeah.
would think I was being self-deprecating, and I wasn't. Like, that's just who I was.
No.
I was a dyke, and
Yeah.
I loved it. Like,
Yeah.
that was
There's
just
a difference between lesbian and dyke.
yes.
Yeah. And now there's a new thing. Do you know about this? It's sapphic.
Oh no, I actually
Yeah.
don't.
See,
I've been-
notice the reaction there.
I've been out for a
Sapphic.
while.
Sapphic. Yeah, they're trying to. It's like be more inclusive of trans lesbians
Oh, okay.
and trans identities within like that community. And there's some politics around being lesbian, you know.
Yes.
Or let's say baggage around that.
Right.
Baggage, lots of baggage. So they're just kind of creating their own thing. Sapphic. Isn't that cool?
I do love that.
Yeah.
'Cause I do know some lesbians who are a little turfy, I guess you would say. So unfortunately,
yes.
so it's
It never goes away.
no, it
I
gets worse.
came out into separatist communities totally, and it's like, how is that still around? I don't get it.
Yeah. But the way I adjusted by leaving was I aggressively tried getting involved in the gay male community.
That sounds familiar.
Yeah, and it wasn't for me. Just not who I am.
Yeah.
As much as I tried.
How was it not for you?
I'm not a gay male. That is
Okay.
it. I had like a boyfriend a couple
Yeah.
different times, and our sexual life was always bad. Like I was like, wow, I can just hate all of this.
How about socially, like going to gay bars and that sort of thing? Or did you even do that?
Yes, so I would say like I try to present queerly if I'm going to a gay bar.
What does that mean, queerly? Rather than gay.
I would say flamboyant.
Okay, flamboyant. Okay.
Yeah.
So playing that edge there.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't want to I don't know why I don't want to be seen as a straight male, but I just don't want to be seen as a straight male.
Okay. Okay.
I guess
so
I'm-
even now.
Yes.
And you can see that probably in your future. Is that?
I think so.
Okay.
Just because I do like dressing flamboyantly still.
Okay.
Like that is just something I enjoy doing.
And you have like really nice hair too. Yeah. I hope you're able to keep it.
I sure hope so. Like, just judging by my dad, he still has most of his hair.
Oh, great.
So I'm gonna try to hold on.
Well, it's both sides too. You have to look at both sides.
Yeah, I didn't know, like-
because if you're XX chromosomally, then you get trouble on both sides.
wish I knew my mom's dad.
Yeah. Yeah.
I know nothing about him, so it'll be a surprise.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you do have really nice hair, so
Yeah.
I always shaved my head when I was younger, so yeah. When I lost it, it was like, oh,
Right.
just less work, I guess. Anyway, so so you pulled away aggressively by sort of forcibly calling yourself a gay man and going out and doing gay things and okay.
And I found like I still have these friends that totally welcomed me into the gay male community. No hesitation. Like
Great.
And that was awesome. Like
Yeah.
I was excited about that.
Yeah.
Went to like a gay bathhouse and
Yeah.
all that.
I actually found that when I was younger, when I was first transitioning, or social, or at least socially before I started medically, gay men were actually cooler than lesbians were.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can understand why they can be protective, but I don't think it hurts to open their minds a bit.
Who?
Oh, lesbians.
Oh, yeah.
Or at least I'm specifically talking about the gatekeepy type of lesbians. Cause,
yeah, and that happens all the time. There's so much gatekeeping. I mean, it's amazing.
And it seems to be in the various age groups I've dealt with, like as young as like 20, but as old as like 50 plus.
I'm in my 50s, by the way.
I wouldn't have thought that.
Anyway.
I would say especially with like the elder lesbians, like there was zero, like I was friends with a butch lesbian and her view was she wouldn't even do butch on butch. It was just butch or femme and that was it.
Yeah, there's a lot of like strict rules around that.
Yeah.
And if you don't play that game, it's almost like you don't get dates. And if you're a butch who, I think even still this is the case, if you're a butch who, let's say, wants to bottom, or maybe you're less butch, you're seen as a lesser person. So it's a weird sexism.
It absolutely is.
Pervades that, yeah.
Because like every woman that I had been with, I couldn't even consider not topping. Like, and it was a lot of pillow princesses, and not that I'm against it. I enjoyed that, but but I was like, well, when's my turn?
Right. And if you want reciprocation, it's like you're denigrated for that. You're made fun of.
Yes.
It's so weird. In a supposedly sex positive community where people are exploring their sexuality and their identities, to have that backlash within the community. It's so weird. And it's weird too because we are of different generations, but we're talking about the same thing.
Right, same problems.
Same thing.
They're going to exist forever, it seems like.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. I wonder if it still exists because there's new lesbians and dykes out there.
I'm going to say the youngins are more open-minded than they have been, I think.
Yeah, well, now they're sapphic, so.
Yeah, there you go.
Good for them. So you had much community, let's say, with other trans men or trans people in general?
Not really, unfortunately. I wish I did. The only community I've had are online only. And that's, I would say that's probably like what I'm trying to do now is find a trans community to belong to, especially around here where there's nothing. I just want it's people who kind of understand where I'm coming from sometimes.
Yeah. That's interesting because, I mean, you're kind of living up here by yourself a little bit, which I love, by the way. That's totally me, too. But then you also want in-person community.
Yeah.
Practically, where do you think you're going to get that?
Probably not. I think the only
maybe Scranton. I don't know.
Scranton might be the best, but I've had more success when I go back to New York.
Yeah,
just because
that makes more sense.
Yeah, which I'm not against because I'm not an overly social person, so I'm really not the type of person who needs to see and interact with people on a daily basis. Maybe like on a monthly basis, but that's about it.
Yeah. So how often do you go back to New York?
I try to go once a month.
Okay, well then there you go.
Yeah, just to visit my grandmother mostly.
Yeah.
Because she's like in her late 80s now, and I want to just enjoy that time.
Yeah.
And
then it sounds like you could probably schedule some other stuff going on.
Yeah, because I have like pretty much all my friends still live out there that I'm friendly with, and there's more queer things to do out there. More gay bars, things like that.
It's almost like too much. Like you have to choose. It's like, yeah, New York's like that. San Francisco as well. It's like after a while you're kind of inundated with events.
Right.
Or like I was into jazz, like and going out to music and stuff, and it's almost like too much. Like I just don't have enough money. You know?
Right.
I mean, I want to do it, but I can't. Anyway, yeah, I bet there's a lot going on in New York.
Yeah.
I would love to go there, but I cannot stand being in cities anymore.
Yeah, it's New York City especially is a city.
Yeah. How do you get there? Do you take Greyhound or?
Depending on where I'm going. If I'm going out to my parents' house, they live like out east on Long Island, so I'll just drive there.
Yeah.
If I'm going,
that must be quite a drive. You're coming from here and going into the city.
Yeah.
Whoa.
So like the way it's crazy, but the way I do it is I'll only drive overnight.
Oh yes.
It's only
that makes sense.
Yeah, only a 2.5 hour drive, but it's quick.
Oh my goodness.
Otherwise, you're like stuck on the George Washington for 4 hours.
Yeah, the traffic is amazing. Like it can literally go for hours.
Oh yeah.
Like just coming out here, I was like, what is this? I mean, I'm way far away from New York, and I'm getting New York traffic.
Yeah.
I mean, it was, and there's actual. I noticed there were parking rides out here. Mm-hmm. Does that feed into New York?
A lot of people who live in specifically the Mount Pocono, Toby Hanna area live there, but work in New York City.
That's crazy.
Oh, it's madness. Yeah.
Where they work like a couple days a week? I mean,
I don't know.
How can
like,
you do that every week?
I'm not sure like what it's like now, post-COVID, pre-COVID though. You by my job, I would see a lot of just parking lots filled with people carpooling, just going to work in the city.
That's wild.
Yeah, like I can imagine now it's got to be a little better, hopefully with like remote work and all that, but who knows.
Do you think they'll ever like have trains that come out here?
That's like one of the rumors. And it's been a rumor since like from I understand like the 80s.
Oh, okay.
Like there might be a train one day, but don't hold your breath.
Okay. All right. So you go back to New York. Mm-hmm. You visit your grandma, which is great. That's wonderful. And then you go to some LGBT or trans-specific events.
Yeah.
What kind of things do you go to?
Like this summer, I don't know if you're familiar with Fire Island.
I've heard about it, but I don't know what it is.
So it's divided into two parts. There's like the not gay part, which people will go to just to go to the beach.
Is that in New York?
Yes.
Okay.
It's like, I don't know if it's on the North Shore or the South Shore, but you can only get there by ferry.
Okay.
So you go jump on the ferry, and there's a big gay bar and restaurant called Cherries on the Bay.
Careful.
Oh, sorry.
It's okay.
And
his end of the table wiggles like this. Mine does not. We're having to be really careful.
I can go get my dog to like stop barking.
Okay, let's do that. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. We're gonna take a break.